speaking of the crypto space, we got a question from Locks Trading. What are your views on crypto and currencies that suddenly gain popularity like Dogecoin? Well, before I even let you guys touch that, Dogecoin is a meme, and apparently that's a meme that got really popular, and people just said, okay, this meme is fun, let's just throw money behind there, and it got really, really big.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I think I don't even know what the frick a meme is. I feel like I'm an old fuck, but I don't know. What do you guys think about that question?
Yeah, I mean, crypto is interesting, and it's it's definitely organizing itself much better than it has in the kind of early days. It is manifest value though. Like it's hard to quantify, but by the same token, 250 years ago, if you were panning for gold in the southern parts of South Africa, you probably couldn't quite rationalize why you were there panning, because it's just this kind of shiny object. And so perhaps the moment you can organize it as something that you can, so it's the moment people can rationalize it for themselves, then its manifest value becomes tangible value. And so there's lots and lots of arguments around why it's valuable, and there's lots and lots of argument about why it's not valuable, but you can't argue its ascension. You can't argue how it's risen over time. But if you think about how the conversation and the debate and the argument has raged over time, whether you were polarized by the idea that you hated it or you loved it, the guys that got on and have been on for the ride have been successful, and those that have the kind of FOMO have also helped to drive its success nonetheless. It's a fascinating space. 5,000 coins, like how is it rational that something that offers, like a Dogecoin that has, like, it's irrational to me.
I think Andrew's absolutely correct. And just to kind of ground that in a more traditional example, with the increase in, there's been a lot of attention as a result of cryptocurrencies on gold. And because of supply chain issues, a lot of attention placed on silver. I read this great article arguing that silver should be worth more than gold, because practically silver has a lot more applications today, going on today, than gold. But yet that value, the manifest value the perceived value, however you want to put it, in gold, remains. So that's my take on cryptocurrency as well. It's still kind of early. Is it a commodity? Is it a currency? How are you going to actually use it? Those themes that Andrew touched on, I think, are all playing out now.
And interestingly, like those things don't necessarily matter, because if you think about, right. I'm going to move into something slightly esoteric, but like the idea of belief, like you can't tell somebody what to believe. And so if you think about, and again, this is I'm taking the conversation into kind of this retail kind of craziness that's happening. So lots of guys get invested in this thing, and I'm talking about the belief invest. I'm not talking about the monetary invest. And so it's very, very difficult to take that kind of belief structure away from somebody. And so if you can tell enough people in a strong enough way with strong enough facial expression, eventually people will buy into what you're kind of describing. And so whether it goes from $30,000 to $80,000, or whether it goes from 30 down to 3 and then back up to $1 million, like nobody knows. But if you're a believer, you're going to stick to the objective. Like, what is the long run objective? I love it.
It's all about belief. And I see all these things online from like the Gen Zers posting and whatnot, and apparently, I think we're Gen X, right? And everyone here on this call, and they're saying that they're calling us Gen Xers freaking baby boomers. I'm like, what the? I'm like, I'm taking offense to that. They're like, yeah, these baby boomers don't believe. I'm like, well, it's like you said, it's all about belief. And then some people these days are believing themselves to be teddy bears, but that's another thing.
Yeah, And you can't take, so this is organized belief. And again, I'm not trying to take it into, the realm of religion, but like, the language and the structure of the way that the information is passed from person to person. Yeah, it's a belief. And I'm going to use another simple example in terms of the things that have been the most successful in the last, whether they're technical or Brexit or have been the things that polarize people the most. COVID is an example. There are, it's almost 50-50 across the board. So people who hated Twitter when it came out are the same people that made it successful they're the same as the people who made it successful as the people who loved it from the beginning, because you could have a conversation about it. And it wasn't lots and lots of nuanced conversation. It was liking it or hating it. And that is exactly what's helped to drive meme stocks, because you've got the hedge fund manager who's short whatever the stock is, driving his polarized objective against 217,000 21-year-olds with access to a Robin Hood account driving the price up. It's that kind of polarity that has manifest these kind of irrational beliefs and pushed lots and lots of opportunities into the stratosphere. Yeah, it's fascinating.
No, I think that's spot on, both of you. And Michael, you touch on a very interesting point about this intergenerational component of it. I don't know. It's burned into my mind that day when the whole meme stock phenomenon broke out with GameStop, and you saw, I forget his name. He's one of the kind of icons of Wall Street. He's on CNBC all the time, and he was, and I'm not making fun of the guy. This is an example of what you're talking about. This, in addition to all this chaos, all this new information, all these moving parts, there's this intergenerational component, and to see, the cliches, people in their basements running with GameStop as a meme stock, and then to see, I forget his name, one of the icons of Wall Street on CNBC, crying. I mean, I don't think you could illustrate it any better. I mean, and that's why when I hear people like Buffett, or I forget, he was the genius in The Big Short, the real life genius, who's
Michael
big
Berry?
concern now is, but Michael Berry. And I listened to him carefully. His talks about his concerns about inflation, and Grantham is another, established Wall Street expert. He's also very concerned about speculation, the stock market being a bubble. I take all that seriously, but then again, the other perspective I have is, we're in a world now where things are just so much bigger, and I mean, they are rooted in a previous generation. So who knows what's going on? And then to see someone on CNBC crying because,
the short didn't play out.
Yeah, it's
yeah, and also, I mean, if you think about Michael Burry and the Big Short, like, the story is told about a guy who was right, and again, this is probably a particularly obvious statement. The movie is made about a guy who was right. There's no stories made about the guy that wasn't right. The guy that's been talking about, the next. The next stock market crash. It's only the guy that calls it to the day that that Miramax writes that makes a movie about.
Who's that guy? He's on CNBC a lot. He's always saying that the next mortgage real bust is around the corner. Dr. Doom.
Yeah.
I think he was
Mario
right
Rabini?
once. Yeah, I think he was right once. And then he's sorry, go on.
No, he's great though. I mean, he's a big hater of the crypto, but he's an interesting guy, But again, you're probably right. He's probably rooted in the world of Keynes and Adam Smith and the invisible hand, when economics has probably shifted. There are probably some really interesting new and kind of novel theses that weren't written in the 17th century.
So, and that's what keeps me up a little bit sometimes at night. When you listen to Dr. Doom or Grantham or even Michael Burrows, their opinions are based in sound analysis, technical analysis, and yet the market goes the other way. So that's when things get a bit, we're in a new frontier. So again, I think that kind of circles back to, having a human kind of analyzing all these moving parts and all this information and all this chaos and trying to, translate it into some kind of strategy or some kind of reasonable thesis or assessment.
Yeah. I was going to say that that plays well into the hands of Union as a distribution ecosystem, or the intelligent portfolio within Scandinavian capital markets, and that is that it's the storytelling that gets you customers. So if your objective is to go out there and raise assets, you need to be telling stories to more people, because the objective output of your strategy will tell its own tale. But you still have to have a beer with a guy who's prepared to put in 100 grand before you can prove to him that you can make him a 2.5% return over 3 months. And so, this whole game is about storytelling. If you've got a big enough audience, you can spin a yarn to anyone.
Well, touching